Hi there, Vibe Gardeners. Welcome to another episode of Vibe Gardening Informing Edition, where we're going to show you how I'm going to set up my experiment to see if we can use tap water to successfully perform hydroponic gardening. With that said, let's go. All right, guys. So a little recap on what's been happening. As you guys saw, probably from my the upgrade episode, talk about efficient hydroponic gardening. I alluded to having the pain of filtering RO water for my hydroponic setup, where I want to make sure that I don't have chloramine in my Ann Arbor water here for my hydroponic systems. Now, the problem with the chloramine is that it doesn't get gassed off like a normal free chlorine. So it lingers around the water. And obviously, my five-stage RO filter will do the job perfectly. The problem with that is that for 2.5 gallons that I'm filtering, it will take sometimes 2 to 4 hours to get the job done. It is extremely tedious. I can't do anything on the fly. So one of the problems that I'm trying to achieve with is get a fast filtration system that can get majority of the chlorine removed that I would need to do to get my job done. So with that said, I'm going to show you guys equipment I'm going to use. I'm going to show you guys the setup, and then I'm going to do the installation. Though I'm not going to show you how I'm going to do it because this is a gardening channel and not a DIY channel. Though there is a lot of DIY content in here, so I will not belabor you installing this filtration system on the concrete wall in my basement sink. And so once I get things all set up, that'll conclude this episode. And then following episodes, I'm going to go into how I conduct the actual experiment to see if the water is capable of being able to do what I needed to do, and if my filter is good enough. So with that said, here we go. All right, so let's talk about the equipment that I'll be using for this setup here. So the first thing I've done was I got these Slimline 10-inch housing for basically standard housing for filters that can go in. And it's got a 3/8 inch input and output, female, and then it's got the little release valve here and for pressure release. And so I got the opaque one because there's no reason for clear housing, as we're basically just trying to get chlorine out of the water. And the filter I got here is a matrix um, filter, and so this one is designed according to the Amazon product page to take out 83% of the chloramine in the water, and a significant amount of the chlorine as well. Now the trick with this one is that you got to make sure the water flow is going to be slow enough because chlorine filtering is a contact-based filtering. So the slower the water flows, the more filtration you'll be getting. Now, this brand seems to be pretty reputable from my online research, and they are NSF certified. So there should be some, what you call it, weight behind the guarantee and the numbers they put up there, since it's a pretty good company. So the other thing I got for the Pentax is I got the mounting bracket, which will be able to help me mount the Pentax from below and then mount it to the wall or cabinet, concrete wall in my case, um, and some screws to go with it. Now I'm going to have to use separate screws, and that I'm going to need concrete screws to screw into the concrete, which brings up to the next portion. From my local hardware store, I was able to get these Capcom concrete screws that are about the right size, and they are these have good instruction in the back on how to get the pilot hole going and then screw these in. So these are going to be what I'm going to be using to anchor this to the wall so that I get good leverage and it's not going to abuse the pressure that's going to be on it from the water supply lines. And then of course, because the water supply line that I got extra to get the job done is also a female connector, which is the same as the Pentax. So I got essentially adapter for both ends, going from 3/8 to 3/8, because that's the width of the water source to the under faucet pipes. So these will be able to get in there and get the job done. So I will link everything below that you'll be able to get. Um, for these things, and hopefully that's going to show you guys how I get things set up. And honestly, if it works, I mean, you guys can have the whole entire set to get yourself set up too. All right, guys. So welcome to my basement, where we're looking at my humble basement sink here, utility sink. And this is where I'm going to be planning to do all my water filtration right here. So as you can see here, down under the sink, there's really not that much space for me to be able to put a under sink filtration system and be able to get easy access to it. And I'm sure this looks not exactly the cleanest, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically mount this right here. Now that is not a very orthodox way of doing things, but I think it will be able to fit what I'm going to do. And as you can see here, we got a vapor seal plastic barrier here for from the foundation work we've done in the last year. And I'm just going to basically screw it on and have these the mounting bracket here, and be able to just get the job done. And so hopefully it works out. This is my first time doing it. Wish me luck. All right, guys. You probably can tell that I'm wearing a whole different set of clothing because, well, I am. It is about 2 days after the previous clip, and that's because I bought the wrong parts for some of the stuff. And like I said before, I'll link everything below so you can get yourself the correct parts and basically avoid the problems I ran across. So to be specific, I got the wrong bracket, a mounting bracket for the unit, and I also got the wrong adapter in that I did a MIP or standard to standard. I should have gotten compression to standard. So I've corrected the mistakes, and obviously with Amazon, I have to get a whole different set of bracket. So that's how I was able to get the problem solved. And of course, I had to get screws for it because none of the aftermarket bracket come with the mounting screws. So again, a lot of research. I'll put all the parts down below so you don't make the same mistake I did. So once I got everything I needed, and including a masonry drill bit that was the right size, it was easy. It took me a matter of 5 to 10 minutes to install the whole thing. It was quite easy. So right now I'm going to show you behind the sink of what it looks like now that I'm done installing everything. All right, guys, so this is behind the sink, and one of the things that you'll notice is that I kind of lied about having to install it out here, because I did discover that the whole unit actually fits between the back of the sink and the wall. So one thing I did was I took the masonry drill and I was able to drill in the 4 holes and put in 3 of the four screws because I actually accidentally broke the head off this screw. But I still think about 3 out of 4 screws should be good enough to get the job done. And then I basically had the out facing that way and the in facing that way from the faucet, and out facing this way, where it gets hooked up. This is the cable, the valve, to go back to the sink for the cold water. And this unit is designed only for cold water. So I'm not going to try to get it to essentially go through hot and cold. And I don't want to, reduce the lifespan of this unit right here. And everything just fits in perfectly. And so right now, here we have this whole unit all set up. And it's flowing just perfectly right now. And now to show you guys everything working, it is, as you can see, the flow rate is behaving like nothing actually ever happened to it. So it's going through pretty fast. I don't actually know what the flow rate of this is, but most residential faucets, the maximum flow rate is about 2.5 gallon per minute, which is sort of the maximum flow you can get for efficiency coming out of this filter. And obviously it's going to want you to reduce the flow a little bit, but I honestly, looking at the speed of which water comes through, I don't think this thing is getting about 2.5 gallon per minute. So I'll look on this product and see how fast it's actually flowing. So I'm going to get a good idea of how slow I need to reduce the speed to be able to achieve that maximum 83% chloramine removal. All right, guys. So now that you've seen how I was able to basically install this chlorine and chloramine filter in under my sink here, utility sink in the basement, and be able to basically set up my experimentation on how to see if I can do tap water for growing hydroponically. I hope that inspires you guys to do something at home. If you've done something like this already, please leave a comment below on how you did it yourself. And as for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a spinach growing experiment to have it go side by side with my RO water and see how that compares to using the filtered tap water. And the main thing that I know I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to cut back, if not completely eliminate, and actually likely completely eliminate the need of CalMag or calcium magnesium supplement, as we're going to have plenty, actually way more than I add, coming from the tap water. So we'll see what survives, what doesn't, and I think spinach would be the best candidate, as it's proven to be actually a fan of calcium, magnesium, and other minerals. And I definitely will not be using lettuce because lettuce really does not like that so much. So next time I'll set up the rest of the experiment, and we can see how they perform head to head with RO versus tap. With that said, keep gardening and keep vibing. Let's go.